Today's show is brought to you by Oldie But Goodie. You know, the OG's DraftKings Sportsbook. We talking about, America's top-rated sportsbook and app. Not only are they safe, Deke, but they are secure and they are reliable. Just like you, man, might I add.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
It's the least we could do. I'm in a good mood since the good guys won this week. But with that being said, for all the first time you
and my picks hit too, so I hope you guys took the advice on our segment there. Yep.
This is facts.
Steelers Jags parlay.
We not messing around. So with that being said, if you use the promo code MOATS, for all the first time users out there, if you use the promo code MOATS, you'll receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money. Like I said, man, it's a great concept. You put your money in, they match it. It's that simple. Can't go wrong with it, all right? And we know we got postseason action, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that. But more importantly, Deke, we know that at times people have a little bit of issue. We know at times, Deke, you might need some legal advice. You might have a gambling problem.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a little bit of a crisis that you need some counseling through. Referral service, boy, you know what I would tell them?
What's that?
If you have a gambling problem, you just call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBLER, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. All right. So now let's get to the news that broke over the weekend. Mr. Kevin Colbert reports coming out that this will be his last go around, retiring after the 2022 NFL draft is what the report was. I believe it was from Ian Rappaport. You said Tom Pelissolo.
Yeah, a little combo reporting by them too. When has that become a thing? I mean, one of them had to have gotten a little bit before the other, right?
Right. Or maybe
they were working on it together.
Maybe Rappaport knew he was retiring, and then Tom found out it was after the draft. And then they say, you know what? We'll combine our work, and I'll share my notes with your notes. Or maybe it was all one person's notes, and the other person just kind of like put their name on it at the end.
That's a good way to put it.
Hey, you do all the research. I'll send the tweet, though. How about that?
Yeah.
But how you feeling about that, though, man?
Not surprised.
Yeah.
No, because whenever it was brought up in the past,
we have talked about
I said, probably like 3 years. 3 years max.
You said, what, 5? Yeah.
And then with Ben potentially retiring too, you could see a scenario where him and Ben go out at the same time. Like maybe he doesn't want to be a part of a whole rebuild or just, I don't know how many hours or extra you got to put into it whenever you don't have Ben as your franchise quarterback trying to figure everything out. I'm sure that could be kind of stressful. Like, what do we do here coming off this offseason? There's so many different combinations, and you've had it over these past 18 years with Ben, but also he had some years with Cowher, obviously, before Ben came in. You've had a pretty stable situation.
Well, you have, yeah.
You've had it good, but that's not taking away anything from him because he's been, in my opinion, awesome as a GM. I don't know how easy it is to get into Hall of Fame as general managers, but
I think
he's just right off the bat, I'd say he's deserving.
Yeah.
So obviously, obviously, with Ben potentially retiring, it makes sense. You just didn't know if he was gonna want to stick around for a little bit of a rebuild over the next 2 or 3 years because there was some rumblings that he was talking with the Lions or the Panthers last offseason, right? And if you're going to do that, you're signing multi-year deals.
Down there,
But I'm not really that shocked.
Now, for me, I wasn't. I would say I was surprised at the timing of the report. Typically, this is something that happens after the season.
Yeah, it is random.
I guess Rappaport was anticipating the Steelers not winning this week. Maybe that's what it was, or not making the playoffs.
Smoking that Rappaport pack.
Yeah, we smoking that Rappaport pack right now. That's why I only stand for Shefty. All right. But I thought that, the timing was a little weird. But yeah, just hearing him announcing his retirement, it doesn't surprise us or shock us, nothing like that. I think it makes it more of an intriguing conversation though going forward in terms of who do you replace him with, whether you go with Mike Tomlin, make him head coach and GM like we've seen at I think Andy Reid is like that. Pete Carroll's not like that. Bill Belichick is like that. We've seen that approach before. Or do you promote from within? Obviously you have guys like Omar Khan, Brandon Hunt, two guys that have definitely been doing their things very different. One's a number guy, one is more of the football scouting guy, so different styles, but both guys have definitely done enough to warrant that type of attention. I know Omar Khan has turned down an opportunity. I think it was with Carolina. Was that a year ago as well?
He was getting GM offers,
he was getting some GM offers as well, and he turned them down. Yeah,
or at least interviews.
Yeah, so with both of those guys, you potentially have 2 in-house candidates, or do you look elsewhere? Louis Riddick, obviously, he has ties to Pitt, and he's the guy that had interviewed for a GM job as well. There's plenty of guys out there, though, in terms of candidates for the GM spot. That's gonna be interesting, though, in terms of what approach they go with. Do you have a preference?
I liked all the 4 scenarios you just listed off.
I do too, yeah. Like
Tomlin's probably my first option, actually.
Okay.
Could we somehow just keep the trio together? Can you bump those 2 dudes, Hunt and Khan's pay, and have them just work as a trio with Tomlin?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I would want. Because I think it makes sense for Tomlin to have almost the final say, or have the bigger say of the 3.
Versus, I agree with that, because Tomlin definitely has more experience in that vein. Whereas with either one of those guys, that will be like new when they get that full
But in terms of
gamut.
scouting and the numbers, I would want those guys around Tomlin too.
Because that's my thing. It's like Omar, I don't necessarily agree with his football element in terms of like the X's and O's, but he's rivaled when you're talking about what he can do with the numbers. And you have to be able to work the numbers to keep those players. Now with Brandon Hunt, he specializes in talent. He's going to look at the talent. He's going to be able to tell you, hey, this guy's good. This guy's not good. He's part of the reason why I came here. In turn, not knowing, but he's a part of that, the decision of, hey, I think this guy's good enough to play here, and these are the reasons why. Like, he brings that, and I think that he would excel in a GM role because of that also. But then you got Coach Tomlin, like you said, like, that's probably like the easiest move. Because with Coach Tomlin, you don't have any other moving pieces. You already know it's one cohesive voice, message. We already know his mentality in terms of how he likes to acquire talent. So I think that could make sense as well. But with those 3 guys, I don't think you can make a bad decision. I think it gets iffy when you start going out of, house.
I wouldn't be opposed to Riddick. That was probably
I like him a lot.
The best name that you brought up. Yeah.
I don't know how he is as a numbers guy. I love him as a football guy, though. That, like, to me, when I listen to him talk, the more I hear him talk, he puts me in such the same vein in terms of football mind as a Coach Tomlin, as a Dick LeBeau, in terms of just how he sees big picture and how fast he's catching it too. It just, you know how it goes. There's certain guys you just know, like, all right, when you hear that language, it's a certain language that they speak, and I speak it as well, but they speak that, and you're like, bro, I like this dude right here, man.
Yeah, I think Louis Riddick's really good.
Yeah.
Now, bringing him in, I would assume we'd lose one of those guys, though, in Khan.
100%. 100. I think if we bring in Riddick, you definitely lose Khan, because Khan was already getting interviews for a GM job, and it's hard to get interviews for a GM job. You stay, and now the GM job is open where you've been at making your name, and we go outside. That's gonna be awkward.
Now, Riddick might be better for the job, though, just based off what you said. Khan knowing the numbers, but there's something else to GM that you got to, football-wise, and just that whole wherewithal, too.
But you could also do it where if you have a numbers guy, you worry about the numbers, but let me worry about the talent in terms of Khan with Coach Tomlin. You give Coach Tomlin a little bit more
Tomlin and
leeway.
I like that,
and you could do it that way. Right. I feel like Khan will definitely be gone if we don't give him the spot as GM. With Hunt, I'm not sure, because I do feel like Brandon is like a little behind if I'm ranking him, just because the numbers are so significant. And I would, if I have to err on the side of a talent guy versus a numbers guy, I lean a little bit more numbers guy, because I feel like if I can find somebody to get the talent, I need you to make these numbers work. And we know how our cap situation has been typically in these offseasons. Now this year should be different, but typically we over here doing whatever we can to make something work. We like, bro, if I rub these 2 pennies together, eventually it's going to turn into $1. I don't know how, but it's going to work. That's what Khan does. All right. So for me, I'm like, man, I'm with that. Like, I like that a lot, but at the same time, you need them all. You need the football guy too.
Like, how much does Khan, it seems like how we're talking, he's the one that probably would prefer having that GM title over Hunt, or kind of, Riddick, obviously he's going to be looking for a GM job. But what I mean is, if you bump their pay or bump their responsibility, I don't know how that would necessarily work, but you just make Tomlin the GM for title's sake, would they be down with that? Or is there the ego play of like, It's not even necessarily ego play. It's just I want the next step. I want the GM.
It's career. It's kind of like, think about like us in our career paths, right? If you're always stuck right here, we say we'll bump your pay, but we're not going to change your title. It's hard to get qualified when you're starting to talk about experience. So that agreement might work right now while you're in Pittsburgh and you're under Coach T, but when Coach T retires and they switch regimes, and now you're one of those guys and you want to get an opportunity to go be the GM for this team, they're going to say, what GM experience do you have? And
you're like, always the numbers guy.
Yeah, it's like, well, how's been the numbers guy? But it's like, well, we want a GM guy. And you haven't done that just yet. So that's the only part where it's like, it might get a little, iffy in terms of just how it all plays out. Like I say, it's gonna be really interesting though, man. Really interesting.
Yeah, any of those 4 options we just laid out are pretty good in my opinion. I don't know if there's anyone else from the outside that's a target.
Yeah.
But I think those 4 are fine. Like if those are the top 4, if that's like the hot list, we can't really do wrong. It's just how you're gonna situate it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Louis Riddick idea though too. Oh, I do like that. But with Louis, you're taking a little bit more. Yeah. With it's 3 risk, 1 a little bit more safer. Like Coach T, I think it's a safer bet just because he's already been in this vein. Not obviously 100% because Colbert, but he's been around it a little bit more, and he's obviously handled. We know the talent part. He's comfortable with that. With Louis Riddick, Brandon Hunt, or Omar Khan, we just haven't seen them in those roles yet, so we just don't know. Now, not saying they can't be great at it, and I do think all 3 will be very successful in those roles. We just don't know. That's the thing.
I think it's more of a testament to Colbert, who he's been as a GM.
Yeah, without a doubt,
because you're going to have to make a move one way or another. It's not going to be perfect. You're always going to have a little bit of a risk. Tomlin's the one I'm good with. If he wants to do that, I don't know if he wants to take on that, because
that's an added responsibility. It definitely is, man.
Because he's been working in cohesion with Colbert, but it's different as being the guy that you got to turn to.
Think about this, Deke. We both record shows together and we record solo. It's a lot easier when it's together versus solo. You know what I mean? So when I think of Coach T in that vein, it's a lot easier to be or help the GM versus when you got to wear that hat along with your coaching hat. Like that could potentially be a lot for him. So we'll see though, man. I'm excited though, man. It's definitely going to be a good, exciting off season because of that, man. But I also wonder with Colbert hanging on until after the draft for a guy like Louis, how does that affect you in terms of your hiring circle? Because is he going to want to go somewhere where he gets to get on beforehand and he can have this draft coming up? Or would he want to wait until the draft is over and then just essentially take on what somebody else has already set up?
That's the question.
Yeah.
I think, as you mentioned with Riddick and how he operates, he could probably see the bigger picture and understand, this is the Steelers organization. This is like a hell of an opportunity.
Yeah.
And if it's Colbert, a potentially Hall of Fame GM, sticking around a little bit for the draft, if I could work with him, I think that's something that could benefit me, if anything. Like, you could almost turn that as a positive.
Well, you're the spin doctor now. We know you're the spin doctor, bro.
Yeah, but I get the other side. I don't view it as like that big of a negative, especially being the Steelers organization. If it was another organization, if it's like the Panthers or some rando team, I could see why it's like, I want to make my footprint here.
Because I think of like the Buffalo situation I was telling you about. Doug Whaley, he had to deal with Buddy Nick's draft for that year. And, we took a quarterback a little earlier in that draft. Like, we had some questionable things that we did.
Was that the manual pick?
Yeah. Whereas I'm sure, like, if you're Doug, you might be saying, maybe I didn't want that guy. Maybe I wanted a different guy. But I got to deal with this. And because where these guys drafted, I have to start him. I have to play him. Maybe it's different. That's all I'm saying. Like, in terms of, like, if you're a GM, maybe you're like, I don't want to deal with that potentially.
How would Colbert operate? Because that's the other side.
You're definitely right. I do.
If he's open to working with someone, and he's not like, oh, this is my pick still. This is like my lasting draft. I got to make all the picks my way.
Yeah.
Then, I think there's definitely room for some cooperation there. But if he is that way, I could see why. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily want to just step into that where Colbert's making the picks and you're just sitting back
and you just take on whatever it is. Yeah.
If you're looking at it long term, being like, all right, this is the Steelers organization. Yeah. This would be a hell of an opportunity. I'm going to be put in good positions here. Mm-hmm. I think you can maybe make it work. I don't see Colbert as that way. I don't know him personally, but there's no way.
Well, his temperament isn't like that.
Yeah.
He from my I've known him for since 14 now. Humble, like in the sense of if that is what the approach needs to be for his predecessor, he would be open to it.
Right.
Like, he's not going to be a guy that it has to be my way. I got all the answers. He's never been a guy like that from every interaction I've had with him, whether we're talking negotiations, playing time, or just seeing him out. Or like when I was about to hit his car the other day, coming out the stadium. Like, either way, like, it's always, he's humble. Like, and I do think that, and that's just organization in general, right? You talk about Mr. Rooney, it starts with him. Super duper humble. I do think that part will benefit however the transition does go.